This model is of the USS Missouri. This is 1 in 100 scale. I actually bought this model off somebody else, or probably about 2010. It originally came in two parts, where the hull could be disassembled to put into a car, and then put together and bolted together to then sail it, which I really didn't feel comfortable with that. The superstructure was of its, with the Missouri, was of around the 1990s configuration or 1980s configuration, which was a lot more streamlined, and a lot of all the guns and so on were removed over the years. So I decided no, and it was not well built, so I then joined the two halves together permanently. It is an all fiberglass hull, but then what I did was strengthen the inside of the hull to bear the ballast and batteries, so the model weighs approximately 55 kilos all up once it sits in the water. And all of what is called the upper works, which is the superstructure and the deck, I just completely stripped everything down. The previous superstructure, I just got rid of it and started from scratch all over again, and put it into her 1945-47 configuration. With the USS Missouri, this is the one that the Japanese signed their surrender treaty on board on September 3, 1945, under the auspices of General MacArthur. There is a gold dot that we've positioned around the other side, in which you'll see there, that's the actual area. On the real ship, there is a brass plaque mounted on the deck to mark the actual setup. The model measures 2.88 meters long, and it's, from memory, I think it's about 28 centimeters across. Carries a draft of 10 centimeters, has 4 motors, 4 propellers, 2 rudders, and in this configuration you also see the seaplanes down the stern there, which was there right up until about 1947, when they removed them and the first of the helicopters were coming in. And when the wind blows, the propellers spin. How's that? The turrets do turn, and the barrels lift up, but we're still sort of work in progress to see if we can make these things, the turrets work, and then they can fire. But how or what or when, it's still in my brain at the moment, trying to work out what's the best approach. There's a lot of what they call the 40mm quadruple guns used for anti-aircraft. And what I've done is I've used nails from my father's old collection, and they were actually called the bullet nails. But when you look at the gun barrels of the real ship, of these 40mm quadruples, it's identical. So I just used my father's old nails. Fine. The turrets, the person who originally built the model, he used wood turning to create the barrels. So there's 9 barrels, and then the rest of it I've built whole new turrets, because the ones he made were all out of scale. So I just started from scratch again and added all the respective detailing accordingly. And then I've used this one. This was the first of the see-through or wire mesh radar screens. And in those days they were fixed, they never swiveled, compared to the modern era where they will swivel around. But what I did was, it's a plastic capping of a Streets ice cream that we sell here in Australia, and then I got flower wire mesh and stuck it on both sides so you can see through, it's clear, and then put the flower wire mesh on carefully around it, and then just painted the edge of it, and Bob's your uncle. Looks exactly the same. And that's your rangefinder, it's fixed. And these big rangefinders are for the 16-inch guns, as they call them, which by any standards they are the largest gun barrels or turrets ever made. Now, having said that, the Japanese, when they built the Yamato and the Musashi, which were, from memory, they were 60,000-ton battleships. Their turrets were 18 inches. So they were the largest gun barrels or gun turrets ever built for warships. But the Americans built this at the 16-inch, and because all 4 Iowa-class battleships still exist, and they're in various places around the United States, the Missouri now resides permanently in Pearl Harbor, just down from where the USS Arizona still lies at the bottom of the harbour after it was sunk at the beginning of the Japanese part of the Second World War, when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. The teak decking here, every single piece is individually cut. I used black paper to sandwich in between, which represents the black caulking. And it's made out of cedar, the actual wood itself. In fact, they came from the old cedar blinds that used to be chucked out on our nature strips in, say, suburbia Melbourne. And we always jokingly say, oh, we're going to go on a free nature strip shopping spree where we pick up all sorts of things along where people don't want this stuff, so it's junk to them, so they just want to throw it in the nature strip. And then the councils come around and pick up all this rubbish, and then they dispose of it, whether resell or it's chucked out in the hard rubbish, and that's it. It's mulched. But quite often you go around and pick up whole reams of Venetian blinds, and then I've been able to cut them very carefully to the scale, and then just laid every single one of them. And it took me about 6 weeks to do the whole lot. For those from overseas, you'll hear in the background a bird squawking away. That's galahs, which is a native of Australia. It's part of the lorikeet and parrot group. And this is a favourite nesting or roosting place here. And they chuckle away for a while. Other times it sounds like they're having an asthma attack when they're not. It's the way they communicate with each other. The lake we're looking at here, Lake Neangar. Neangar is an Aboriginal, or first native Australian ones. They've called it Neangar. Neangar means rest place. That's it. Well, we're finished here.
That's
definitely, they can certainly fit on my model of the Enterprise. I got hold of a hull from somebody who was starting to build the USS Enterprise, and over the last couple of weeks I've built or made the flight deck. And on the USS Enterprise, the flight deck is massively wide, as much as long. The width of the flight deck is the width of the hull twice over, and then the length obviously as it goes long. Now by that, the width of the flight deck on the Enterprise is approximately that wide, so there's ample room for Tony to land this on my marine launching platform out in the middle of the lake, which is 30 metres away from any crowds, which we have to observe CASA regulations. So instead of landing on the land here, which can be a bit sort of, where's people, we've got to watch what we're doing very carefully. Put a huge model of an aircraft carrier out there, and bingo, an aircraft carrier. It speaks volumes.
And we've got an aircraft.
And we've got an aircraft to go with it. And because the model can sail out there and sail back with this thing switched off, the result is, there you are, you're taking it out well away from the crowds for safety measures, again under CASA regulations. The For those from overseas, CASA is the Commonwealth Aviation Services. They're our overriding body here in Australia. We're going to leave this structure here on dry land. What we're going to do is, because the undercarriage of this cradle is waterproofed, it's fresh water, so we're not going to have corrosion. I'm going to take this model out further out into the water there, where we can then set it all up. Because it's very shallow here and the model's very hard to lift, hence these yellow cords. What I'll do is like that, where I can lift the hull up and then put it into the water. On the count of 3, 2, 1, up. Energy I have left in these batteries. It's reading 5 at the moment, but I've got some backup batteries with me. It's just a simple 4-channel exercise. You've got the inboard props and the outboard props. Because there's 4 propellers, the inboard is the one further ahead, so to speak, going back towards midships, and the other propellers are right down towards the stern end, nearer to the rudder. Which is called the outboards, and then that's a channel each. Then the other one is the rudder, left or right, and that's all I have. I only use 3 out of the 4 channels. Keep it sweet and simple. We'll give it the first whirl around. We'll wheel this out again.
I've got a pre-flight anyway and get set up. There's actually a little bit to do.
Yeah, okay.
That's scratch built.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. It's the USS Missouri.
Huh.
Did you help make it, or you just take it?
No, that's the guy just there.
Oh my god, Andrew, you need to go and make friends with him.
Okay, what we're going to do is we do one of these imaginary world cruises. For those who have seen me sail the QE2 on Lake Waruna last year, we're going to do something similar again on Lake Neangar. We're going to do a world cruise. This time we're going clockwise. So it'll be a little while. We're waiting for young Tony to get his drone working. It's very sensitive to the winds, and the winds are getting a little above the recommended speed for him to fly. But we'll see how we go.
Lights. Yep, we're ready to fly.
Well, I saw it fly and I could hear it. Now it's stopped again. We're talking about Tony's drone. I hope it hasn't landed in the drink. Okay, we'll cut the engines again and let it just drift for a while. Okay, let's move that up.
There's another one too behind it.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Okay.
Good.
Tony, where are you? He's gone. As you can see, I'm just running only on the outboard motors at the moment, which is technically what the real warships do. They go on cruise, where it means you use far less fuel. The only time when you really pick up speed is at battle speed, when you are establishing contact with the enemy. But once I turn on the inboard motors and off we go, the thing will take off very quickly then. But I want to conserve the energy whilst we're doing this so-called imaginary world cruise around the lake. You want to try and save as much power as you can. And also, the closer the model is to my IC unit, the faster it will go, because the frequency is now shortened. And also my battery readout is reduced from 5 to 4.6, so I've got to keep the model and RC unit very close to get the best possible signals, so I get the best possible response from the model. As you can see, with most warships, they have the right coloured grey, that they just blend in with the water, the colour of the water, as opposed to my passenger liners where they're all brightly coloured in their respective liveries and they stand out. Warships, you've got to blend in. Oh dear, enemy aircraft. Ease up the speed. A bit of a guessing game sometimes, but I can usually get about 4 to 6 hours to keep going. There's 4 batteries inside the model, but the way the wiring's been set up, it's only on 2 batteries at a time. They're 6-volt batteries. Out of that, it's what they say. It's about 12 amp hour, meaning it could last for about 12 hours theoretically, but it just depends on how much load you use your motors, and it does use a fair bit of juice out of it. But I'm just... it's around here is a bit more awkward. Where I am, right over there, that's part of that isthmus that comes out. That's where I'm launching from there, and that's quite right there. It's very shallow. Just walk out into the water. Oh, the kids have just discovered something big. In the models, it's a little like an empty cargo ship on the inside of it, and what you do on the outside is what I nickname it is the detailing, but it's the icing on the wedding cake, so to speak. Yeah. Oh, it's heavy. When you get all the batteries and ballast in on the Queen Mary 2, it'll be 110 kilos. That's all right. All the best. Sorry. Oh, we call them the ghosts. They always follow us like ghosts.
Show me here, because we just explain what happened.
Has a nice tight turning circle. The real ship was always renowned for having very, very tight turning circles, the same as the destroyer. Now, battleships, particularly the British battleships, always had single rudders in their day, and very slow in turning. And there's the famous British battleship HMS Hood. Because it was so slow, it's scored a direct hit from the Bismarck's shell, and the demise, well, then you'll be able to read the rest of the history of the HMS Hood. But the Americans insisted on using dual rudders, and therefore that made it turn around even faster still, and it's directly behind the two propellers. So therefore you even got greater turning circle for battle scenarios. Hello. I'm the man, the master. Thank you. Thank you very much. Oddly enough, if you zoom in to the warship and the waves being created by the wind, you wouldn't see the landmass, so to speak, but it looks like it's the real ship. You're getting more authenticity out of it. Perfect to keep in touch with you, because I was feeling, oh, Tony, you're missing out on this.
So where are you going?
We're just going to go back around this way, so I've got to keep it close to where I am, keep the signals tight with the ship.
Yep. Going in here or?
Yes, oh yeah, going to the cove. Yes, yes.
Cove?
We nickname it Turtle Cove because that's where a lot of the turtles are there.
Pseudo drones.
We'll go onto the jetty and work out even more.
See if I can actually get some flight footage.
Yeah, give it a go.
It's going to take me a minute or so to get around.
Shh. Don't go too loud. Left rudder. High speed. Wow, he's got it. That's the American battleship USS Missouri.
That's the coolest remote control boat I ever seen. I've never seen one.
So you've never seen a battleship?
No.
No.
I've only seen them on like
Television?
yeah.
Yeah. In America, no, it's still, in fact, this ship still exists. It's in Pearl Harbor in Hawaii.
Is it real?
Yeah. Oh yes, it's a real ship. I was going to say, well, you're good enough in swimming anyway. Have you got it?
Yeah.
Oh, well done.
Hang on, blown the thong.
Just take your time. Take your time.
Where'd that go? Well, we know this thing's waterproof.
Is it?
Yeah, look, it's still flashing lights.
Okay.
I don't.
Was it supposed to be waterproof?
Not that I know of.
You've even got the American flag as well.
Absolutely.
Unbelievable.
We have to show some sort of respect to that nation on the other side of the Pacific. This is only one of several very large models I build. And it comes in that big white trailer over there. That's how I transport it around. This is the only warship I've got. The other three large models I've got is the original Oriana of the 1960s. The Queen Elizabeth II, QE2, and currently it's in the trailer at the moment, the Queen Mary 2, QM2. Yep.
What's powering it?
With this is 4 standard electric motors on 4 6-volt batteries, 12 amps. So technically I can run this for about 6 to 8 hours. Oh, right. Hello.
It's moving.
That's right, it's moving now. See, I've got
What are you doing with that?